All right, well, you can be seated. And I am Deborah Leibowitz. I am the provost here at Quinnipiac University, and it is my pleasure to declare the 2022 commencement exercises for the Quinnipiac University School of Law officially open. All right, well, actually, I told you to sit, but it was really a trick, and this is like Simon Says, this ceremony. So please stand for the national anthem, which will be performed by Krista Hall, the class of 2023.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Krista. You can now really be seated, at least for a moment. So I'd like to take a moment to just recognize members of our platform party, which consists of our commencement speaker, whom you will hear and meet in a few moments, university administrators, the alumni board members, and also the dean of the school. But in particular, I want to recognize a member of our Board of Trustees, Rick Silver, who is also here with us today. And then, with that, you will in a moment, will do a real, bring Dean Brown up, and she can then actually introduce I'm confused because this is different than every other session. My God, people. You are my fifth, and we just changed the order on me, right? So you were my fifth, and so, okay. So I'm going to introduce the esteemed Dean Jen Brown, and she will introduce the president.
Thank you, Provost Leibowitz, and thank you for being with us. And before I say anything else, I know that this was a last-minute change, and so it feels weird. But to those of us from the law school and from the faculty, this feels like coming home. I have to say, this really is wonderful to have you all together in this space. So thank you for your flexibility in coming to a new space, and it's great to have you all here. I am so happy to see you all this afternoon. I bring greetings to all of you on behalf of the law school. Congratulations to our graduates. We're so proud of you. Welcome. Welcome to friends and family. We're grateful to you. We are thrilled to be gathered with you all to celebrate our hardworking graduates. And now it is my honor to present Dr. Judy Olian, the president of Quinnipiac University, who will bring you greetings on behalf of the university community.
Thank you, Dean Brown, and good evening to everyone, to the class of 2022. Yeah. This is, if not my favorite day of the year, very close to my favorite day of the year. It's a day that fills me with tremendous pride and joy because we get to celebrate you, our graduates, and your amazing accomplishments as we mark one of the most special and unforgettable, I think, chapters in your life. But before I feat you, I want to first welcome our esteemed guest and speaker, Emily Bazelon, a senior research scholar and lecturer in law, Truman Capote Fellow at Yale Law School, and writer for the New York Times Magazine. We are so grateful that you are with us today and that you'll share your wisdom and life insights with us. Emily will be properly introduced in a moment. But I'm going to ask you now to stand up and to turn to the audience. Our graduates, stand up. Turn to the audience to give thanks where thanks were due. To your loved ones, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, siblings, friends. Thank you, everyone here, because you were there for your students, for our students, through thick and thin. So we thank you for that. And while you're standing, please also give a warm round of applause to our terrific faculty and staff for all they've done throughout your journey here at QU Law School in offering such an exceptional learning opportunity during your time here at Quinnipiac Law. And I know many of them will remain your mentors, your friends, probably for the rest of your life. So thank you, thank Mom and Dad, and you may be seated. But now I'm turning to you, our graduates. You made it, you have arrived. Yeah. I congratulate each of you for choosing to devote yourself to the practice of law and for being a defender of justice and fairness. The knowledge, skills, and nuanced perspectives you'll be taking into the legal profession were shaped, importantly, by this Quinnipiac education, and as Dean Brown would say, focuses on the whole lawyer. That preparation empowers you to retain your personal values and sense of self, your compassion and empathy, while serving as a deeply knowledgeable, open-minded, and ethical legal practitioner. This is the end of what feels like, I'm sure, a really long journey for you, and yet it's the beginning of an exciting and perhaps daunting new chapter. As lawyers and legal professionals, you will be advocates for those who are silenced or wronged. For the vulnerable or marginalized, you may find yourself enmeshed in issues of historic or transformative societal significance, or matters that have vast economic impact. We're confident that you are prepared for these momentous assignments, that you're primed, that your time in the classroom and the courtroom and learning alongside our expert faculty have prepared you well. In addition to undoubtedly your book smarts, your moot court time, your hours of experiential learning, you're graduating also with a very unique perspective, a set of lived experiences over these last few years that position you to be an even better legal professional and individual. As you weathered a pandemic while continuing your legal studies, you've become very familiar in how to pivot on a dime with tremendous resiliency, juggling sometimes complex family needs, adapting to new models of learning and technology, considering how actions impact entire communities, and appreciating really the importance of very basic human connections. And those experiences undoubtedly have had lasting effects, some of which are continuing, others which will become evident as time goes on. That's true for all of us. You had to discover within yourself perseverance, adaptability, creativity in finding work and family solution, new ways of finding joy and opportunity. You became even closer to your family, to friends who might have lived with you. You showed compassion in the face of painful losses. You became an activist in areas where you could have impact. And you also came to cherish what we had when things were normal. And now you'll embark on your next ambitious journey, defining what can be, righting some wrongs in the world in which you choose to engage, whether it's a professional form of engagement or personal. Like all of us, you'll draw upon the experiences of the last few years to become even more thoughtful about your own and others' vulnerabilities, while reminded that ultimately we, and I mean the whole world, are interconnected and dependent on each other. I quote from actually an unknown author to me, "Experience is a cruel teacher. It gives us a test before presenting a lesson." Experience is a cruel teacher. It gives us a test before presenting the lesson. You were certainly tested. We all were. But you passed with flying colors, with grace, with courage. Now it's incumbent upon us to take what we've learned and apply it not just to our own journeys, but to consider the predicament of others really across the entire planet. And there is an urgent need to apply those life lessons today as we watch with deep sadness as a war rages in the Ukraine, as the global effects of climate change cause growing devastation, as we witness the long emotional and societal overhang of the pandemic. You've already revealed that while at QU, that you are caring members of communities far and wide. I've watched you speak up and take action for social justice. You've used your talents, compassion, and legal skills to give back to neighbors and to local communities. Through our civil justice clinic, you've assisted local residents deal with challenges related to juvenile justice, immigration and asylum, family law, and the civil rights of women and transgender people. You participated in a forum on homelessness mitigation to enhance housing stability in communities nationwide. And alongside this pro bono assistance to communities, you found time to manage a challenging course load and to produce scholarly work. That's why I'm confident when I say that you're prepared as a whole lawyer. As I close, please know that as you go out on your life's journey, you will always have a home here at QU. We hope you come back often, stay connected to the law school, to the university, and even become a mentor for a future Bobcat lawyer who can learn from your own career journey. You're joining an alumni community that is 60,000 strong, and I encourage you to take advantage of that powerful network. All of us at Quinnipiac will follow your path with great interest. We'll unabashedly brag about your successes, and we will beam with pride about the great impact you're having in the law and in the life you choose to lead. Congratulations to the class of 2022, a class where each of you is a Bobcat for life. You've already made your mark, and we cannot wait to see how you continue to change the world. Congratulations.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Olian, and thank you so much for your leadership of the university. The law school is the richer for it. Thank you. Well, class of 2022, as you know, and apparently as President Olian also knows, I am obsessed with this idea of the whole lawyer. And I've been thinking about the whole lawyer, and I've been thinking about time a great deal this year. I've been thinking about past, present, and future, and about how each of those periods contribute to make up the whole lawyer. Now, let's just take a moment to dwell on the past, if that's not too, I don't know, daunting a prospect for you. I mean, do you ever, as you sit here, kind of look back on your first year of law school and really take stock of how much time you spent reading and discussing cases about crimes that were perpetrated, torts that were feased, oh yes, they were feased, contracts that were breached, and lawsuits that were filed? No wonder if you might have felt a sort of sense of impending doom in the fall of 2018 or the fall of 2019 as your first semester progressed. Even in the best of years, without the additional stressors that, okay, I don't need to talk about, but we'll mention them just now briefly, a global pandemic, political insurrection, and a growing climate crisis, right? The first year provides a lot to trouble you, a lot of trouble to contemplate. And of course, as you are all too painfully aware, your time in law school was not, as it turned out, something that occurred in the best of years. Instead, you faced and you survived illness and death in your families and communities, disruption of your legal education as you shifted from on-ground to online education just a few months into the process for this cohort. Changes in grading systems and consequential changes in ranking, scholarship renewal, eligibility for law journal membership, like the administrivia of this got very, very tough. And I think really powerfully, there were constraints on your ability to socialize with each other, with the faculty, with the administration, with alumni, right? And that had a resulting change in your networking opportunities. So it was hard. Sometimes I think it's not too much to say it was traumatic. Sometimes it was injurious. And other times it was just simply difficult. It was difficult, perhaps more difficult than you thought you could handle. But here you are. You did survive, and in most cases, this stress and this strain that you endured has made you more resilient, more resourceful, more empathetic, and simply stronger. And I do think it's not too much to say you're a little bit like athletes who have been training under difficult conditions. You found strength, mobility, and endurance. They've all increased because you have been through this discomfort. You know, earlier this spring, as part of my PILP event, I had the immense pleasure of hosting a group of graduating students at my house for dinner. And it was so, yes, hey guys. And it was so much fun to listen to them recounting the memories, the stories they told. And you know, it occurred to me, a lot of the stories they were telling were about hard things, difficult classmates, stressful class situations, less than perfect, sometimes online pedagogy, and quirky professors. Sorry, guys, in the front row here, quirky professors. And yet, you know, more often than not, I felt like these stories were recounted with laughter, you know, and a kind of warmth and a sense of having bonded over these difficult experiences. And it reminded me of my own law school experience and how, when I look back on it now, many years later, it's the hard things I do remember, but I remember them as having brought me closer to my classmates, closer to my friends, and really making me more in touch with what I had to give to the world. So I'm sure you are thinking today about these past 3 or 4 years, what you've learned and how you've changed. But the future is also looming, and it is beckoning, particularly on a day like today. And so, as you've learned during your legal education, lawyers are paid to think about the future, right? So what does that look like? Oh, here's a draft contract. How might it be performed or breached in the future? Here's a tort victim. How might they be restored to health or financial wholeness in the future? Here's a criminal defendant accused of malfeasance in the past. How might they be deterred from future misconduct or appropriately held accountable in the future? So lawyers spend their days planning for the future. And on the upside, this means asking how a client can most effectively build a business or organization within legal requirements. But on the downside, this means anticipating what might go wrong, right? What might need clarification or even compensation at some point. And this is at least part of what I think it means to think like a lawyer. Lawyers are paid to think about and help clients prepare for the future. And for that reason, unfortunately, law school can breed pessimists, because you become people who habitually anticipate the future and expect bad things to happen, right? So I'm reading a book by Tracy Dennis Tewari, who's a professor of psychology and neuroscience, and she's the director of the Emotion Regulation Lab and co-executive director of the Center for Health Technology at Hunter College. And she's the author of this book entitled Future Tense: Why Anxiety is Good for You, Even Though It Feels Bad. And Dennis Tewari writes, anxiety is what we feel when something bad could happen, but hasn't yet. Sound familiar? She says that anxiety not only is a feeling in our bodies, but also a quality of our thoughts. When we're anxious, our attention narrows. We become more focused and detail-oriented. We tend to see the trees instead of the forest. Sound familiar? And she says anxiety also tends to get our minds moving, worrying about and preparing for negative possibilities. Thinking like a lawyer yet? And this point really hit me as I was reading. Dennis Tewari writes, whether our anxiety is due to dread or excitement, we become anxious only when we anticipate and care about what the future holds. We become anxious only when we anticipate and care about what the future holds. You do care about what the future holds. I know, because it's what you brought to your legal education, and it's what you learned in your legal education. And now you are trained as never before to anticipate the future. And I do think that can sometimes trigger or exacerbate anxiety. So what can you do to mitigate that? Well, as many of you may remember, I told you early in your time at Quinnipiac that I wanted you to think like a lawyer, but continue to feel like a human being. Human beings are not just these disembodied brains that are out there anticipating the future, right? Human beings are people who are present right now, right here, noticing what's going on inside them and around them. And if you are able to do that, that's where the promise to educate the whole lawyer comes into play. To balance this professional requirement that you think about the future, I suggest that you draw upon your past. Yes, draw upon your past, the hard things that you've endured, the relationships that you've formed, the skills and the knowledge that you've gained, and the relationships that enrich your lives, these friendships. They can help you in those moments of anxiety. And here's the final piece. I've talked about the future, talked about the past. Let's think about the present. And those of you who have been in my LPR class know that I begin almost every class by asking my students to try to make themselves present in that room, to stop for a moment, to breathe, to be aware what's going on around them and what's going on inside them. And I do that because I think that's what helps you continue to feel like a human being, but it's also what will make you a more effective and ethical lawyer, because you're going to have that awareness. So that's really mindfulness, and people talk about it a lot. But I want to suggest to you today, it's a bit of advice. Yes, you've been trained to think about the future. Yes, I want you to draw upon your past. But I also want you, in those difficult moments, to stop and be present in the present. And I think that is what will keep you together as a whole lawyer. Thanks. And you don't have to clap right now. Let's move on to talking about the past and the future. Now, in the past, when you guys came in during orientation, we had you take an oath of professionalism as students. And here at Commencement, we ask you to renew that oath, but to look forward in the future to your responsibilities as lawyers. So I would ask you now to pull out that oath of professionalism. Do you all have it in your hands? Yes? Please stand. And again, you may raise your right hand as you did at orientation, and now read your oath of professionalism as graduates. Ready? I am leaving the academic community of Quinnipiac University School of Law and embarking on a professional career. As a law student and future lawyer, I understand that the study and practice of law carry both privileges and responsibilities. I willingly accept the responsibilities that accompany those privileges and the responsibilities that the faculty, the bench, and bar, and the public entrust to me. I promise to do my utmost to adhere to the ideals of the legal profession and to uphold the highest standards of professional honesty and ethical practice during my career. I will remember that my actions reflect not only on me, but upon Quinnipiac University School of Law, my fellow alumni, and the legal profession. To strengthen the legal community, I will conduct myself with dignity and civility and will treat all of my colleagues with kindness and respect. I will conduct my professional and personal life so as to uphold the values and standards that are expressed in the rules of professional conduct and the traditions of the legal profession. Thank you all. You may be seated. And today we are very privileged, we're very honored to have a commencement speaker who I sort of think of as America's law professor. Because when she is a guest on Stephen Colbert or going back to the Colbert Report, she explains the law and she explains why it matters. And she debates these issues at very high levels. Emily Bazelon is a lecturer in law, senior research scholar in law, and a Truman Capote Fellow at Yale Law School. She's a staff writer at the New York Times Magazine, and she's the author of 2 national bestsellers, Charged, The Movement to Transform American Prosecution and End Mass Incarceration, and Sticks and Stones, Defeating the Culture of Bullying and Rediscovering the Power of Character and Empathy. Before joining the Times, Bazelon worked for 9 years as a senior editor at Slate. She's been a Soros Media Fellow, an editor and writer at Legal Affairs Magazine, and a law clerk on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit, as well as a regular guest on the Colbert Report and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. She's also a co-host of the popular podcast, Slate Political Gabfest. Bazelon is a graduate of Yale College and Yale Law School, and it is my distinct privilege to introduce our commencement speaker, Emily Bazelon.
Thank you so much, Dean Brown and President Olian. It is such an honor to be here with all of you today. I hope that you and your families are filled with joy and pride. I love graduations. First of all, they have inside of them the essential quality of doneness, which for a deadline journalist is a great thing. And I also love that graduations are shared, that they're a moment of community goodwill in which we can look around and feel pride in our own accomplishments and also the accomplishments of people around us. So, scanning your alumni directory over the weekend, I saw that among you, graduates, are people who will practice law all over the country, with some concentration in Connecticut. I've lived here in New Haven on and off, mostly on, since 1989. Wherever you go, I see so many opportunities for you to bring your new skills to bear on local issues, here or elsewhere. To me, this seems especially important right now, in a moment of turmoil and uncertainty, when I feel most concerned about what is happening around the world or in Washington, D.C. I think, well, we need to make Connecticut and every other state as good a place to live as we possibly can. Commencement is not really supposed to be a time for politics. I know that, but politics and law is what I write about. So I hope you'll bear with me as I try to sketch out a few thoughts about how your law degrees and your future law careers are connected to politics in ways that I think present opportunities to understand and maybe even heal some of the deep breaches in American life. I want to make that case for you about 3 different elements of law and legal education. The first is the value of the rule of law, what we might also call the rule of rules and regulations. And what I mean by that is having a framework for understanding problems and issues in society that informs but is also separate from and can override partisan conflicts. The second thing I want to talk about is the way in which you, as future lawyers, can help demystify the law for people around you. And my third point is about the opportunities that I hope you'll have, and I think you should find, to fight for things you care about and to defend people or causes that matter to you. So let's start with rules. People ask me a lot why I went to law school, because I'm a journalist. I've never practiced law. I did go and pass the Connecticut bar, which I hope some of you will also be doing soon too. But all that means in my case is that I'm a lawyer who no one should ever hire. Which will not be true for you. I have found tremendous value in my law degree, however, because it has given me a framework for thinking about the things I care about and that I write about that has its own structure and architecture and scaffolding. So when I write about legal issues, I really appreciate the discipline that case law and statutes and rules impose on me. I can't just make things up to suit my own preferences. Or if I am drawn to do that, I hope that at least I can see that that's what I'm doing. So I wanted to give you an example. In 2020, my editors at the New York Times asked me about the effect of law on the American labor movement. They were noticing that union membership had seriously declined, and they wanted to know how the legal structure of American law had contributed or not contributed to that phenomenon. So here's a little history. The National Labor Relations Act, which was signed into law in 1935 by President Franklin Roosevelt, was a response to union busting by companies during the Great Depression. There were these huge, massive strikes all over the country, and 2 social reformers in government, the Secretary of Labor, Francis Perkins, and Senator Robert Wagner, who was a Democrat from New York City, they were trying to counsel unions to be patient and negotiate. But then in 1934, Senator Wagner went to Virginia. He was hoping to use his personal influence to settle a big strike at a textile plant, and he came back breathing wrath. Those are his words. He also said, we've got to have a law that requires the companies to deal with the union in collective bargaining. Just imagine, they won't even talk with the union right now. So that is the basis for the National Labor Relations Act, and when it passed, it forced employers to the bargaining table by giving workers the right to collectively bargain. From the start, however, this law had limitations as a tool for protecting workers. To win the votes of Southern Democrats in the Senate, Roosevelt and Senator Wagner agreed to exclude farm workers and domestic laborers from the guarantees of the National Labor Relations Act. And in addition, unions were not allowed to organize across a whole industrial sector. Instead, they had to organize company by company. And yet still, for about a dozen years, the National Labor Relations Act was an engine for organizing American factories, and union ranks swelled. But then, in the late 1940s, big business hit back. In 1947, over the veto of President Harry Truman, Republican majorities in Congress passed the Taft-Hartley Act. And that law amended the National Labor Relations Act by effectively permitting employers to use work time for mandatory anti-union meetings, also banning sympathy strikes and boycotts, and allowing states to pass what are called right-to-work laws, which ban mandatory union dues for workers even though they are benefiting from a union's representation. That last change, the right-to-work laws, are a big blow to the political power of the labor movement because they reduce union membership and revenue. In the 1980s, American workers took a real beating because of some of these legal changes. The event that set the stage was a strike by federal air traffic controllers in August 1981. President Reagan declared their action illegal, and he fired more than 11,000 striking workers. The law that the Reagan administration relied on for that mass firing had been on the books since 1955. But over the course of 39 previous work stoppages by federal employees, no president had used it before to fire federal workers. But once Reagan did that, suddenly people realized, hey, you can beat a union. That last quote is from a labor historian I interviewed for this article. These dynamics help explain why the share of workers who belong to a union has fallen to about 10%. That's the lowest rate of any wealthy country, even though public approval of unions in the United States has risen to 64% in the past decade. As unions go, so goes inequality. The division of income among Americans has increasingly tilted to the richest 10% and away from everyone else as union membership has ebbed. So fast forward to 2019. That year, the National Labor Relations Board, which is the governmental agency that the National Labor Relations Act set up to administer the law, the people on this board in 2019 were appointed by former President Trump, and they started making some big changes. For example, they classified Uber drivers as independent contractors, which meant it was hard for them to unite to demand better pay. And that year, the NLRB also ruled against organizers in big organizing drives, for example, at McDonald's. So those rulings showed that for millions of low-wage workers in sectors like fast food and the gig economy, American labor law was pretty weak. If the NLRB could undermine employees when they tried to unionize, what did the law's promise to protect the rights of workers to come together really mean? After President Biden's election, the composition of the National Labor Relations Board changed. Maybe you've heard about the success of the recent organizing drive at an Amazon warehouse in Staten Island or at some Starbucks stores. And those were possible in part because of favorable legal rulings from Biden's National Labor Relations Board. So my point in telling you about this history is that the law really matters. It has helped structure the conditions under which labor relations and the labor movement has developed. And politics matters too, because in part, how this law has functioned has turned on who the voters elected, on who was appointing the members of this board that effectively controls how the law works. To me, the lesson here, the larger lesson, is that law school and being a lawyer should train you to see the connections here. And that brings me to my second point. You can also now help explain the role that law plays to other people who don't have your training. Often, legal issues confuse people and they bore people and they just kind of leave people feeling left out. They feel left out by the jargon that professionals sometimes use and just by the sheer density, the number of facts and rules, the way in which those interact. It is our job, I think, as law school graduates, to translate. If you can explain a legal concept to someone who is not familiar with it at all, then I think you know that you truly understand it. I recommend this as a strategy for studying for the bar. It helped me a lot. And I also recommend it just for making other people feel included in the legal system and the political process, and maybe less divided by the underlying facts of the issues that tend to divide Americans. At least people will understand the issues and the facts and maybe the stakes if they know about how these things are operating and affecting how law works. So I wanted to give you two examples of Supreme Court justices who I think were excellent translators. One of them is Justice Scalia. So for example, when he was arguing that Congress exceeded its powers by passing the Affordable Care Act, this is back when that law's constitutionality was very much up for grabs at the Supreme Court, Justice Scalia made his point, which was that he thought that Congress had gone too far, by comparing making people buy insurance on the healthcare exchanges to the government making everyone eat their broccoli. Whatever you think about the legitimacy of that analogy, it was super memorable. Justice Ginsburg had a similar talent. When she dissented from the Supreme Court's decision to effectively end an important protection for voters of color in the Voting Rights Act, she said that throwing out this protection when it has worked and is continuing to work to stop discriminatory changes was like throwing away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you're not getting wet. Again, whatever you think of the merits of her position, it's a memorable phrase. It makes you understand what is at stake in this very complicated case. My charge to you is that if Supreme Court justices of all ideological stripes think that it's important to speak in plain language about law, then we can take our cues from them. My third charge to you is to remember to use the law and your degrees and training to advance a cause or defend a position or a group that you care about. Think about who is vulnerable and who is in need of the kind of help that you can now offer. Maybe you're about to learn a lot about corporations and how they're structured, and you could help someone form a nonprofit organization that supports a cause that you hold dear. Maybe you're about to practice tax law, and you could help someone get back money from the earned income tax credit that otherwise they might have to pay a whole lot to receive. Or maybe there's an incarcerated person who you hear about who needs representation to challenge an excessive sentence or harsh prison conditions or to bring an innocence claim. The amazing thing about a law degree is how general it is. They will let you help all those people. Once you have a law license, they will let you help try to solve any of these problems. You have a form of power now. You'll have a lot of claims on your time, I know that, but I hope that you make time for using your power in ways that feel righteous to you. Thank you so much for listening, and congratulations to all of you and to your teachers and your families.
Thank you very much, Emily. And now it is my honor to call to the podium Associate Dean Kevin Barry.
Would Professors Jennifer Levine, Robert Farrell, and John J.T. Thomas please come to the front? Marshals, please direct the candidates for the Juris Doctor degree to the platform. Kyle D. Souza. Nicole M. Lipkin. Sarah Noel Smurillo. Shannon M. Palm. Camila Nerona Martins Custodio. John Tyler Edward Castellanetti. Richard Kyle Bratton. Christopher Camilo Perez. Eric Leonard Chassie. Kylie Sheehan Chassie. Lexi Jo Farkash. Elizabeth Denise Hereniak. Annie Catrini. Michelle Anteo. Michelle S. Cable. Catherine Yee Seymour. Catherine Baccaro. Kimberly A. Van Grow. Ryan Patrick Hauser. Catherine Grace Dinsey. Sarah Ann Conlon. Alexis Crimson Kenny. Caitlin Marie Thomas. Brianna Tozier. Anna Lily Bank. Elio Catherine Margaret McCabe. Christopher Booza. Jeffrey James Cash. Natasha Tan Neyman. Right on. Ethan Patrick Sarasi. Emily Jean Mary Costanzo. Laura Sydney Voisin. Christopher John Albanese. Janine Triana Alferte Mateo. Christina M. McKinney. Gabriel Mark Casillo. Hey. Camille Natasha Lavash. Hello. Keon. Heron Keon Gaston. Jennifer Kaneshi Murto. Michelle Jean Koss. Sydney Kimberly Jubry. Joel DiLaredo. Timothy John O'Flynn. Amy Babbage. Yasmin Sharif. Kajal Baraktumakumar Patel. Brittany L. Bisson. Jenny Liana Marco. Jonna M. Wallace. Hey. Carrie Ann Kavanaugh. Youssef. Mark Youssef. Julie Marie Yeski. Kara Ann Newell. Alexander Avery Gates. Brendan Dakin. Daniel Rosengard. Andrew Brian Jordan Jr. Andrew Joseph Peterson. Timothy R. Bouchard. Hannah Rose Myers. Julia Desea. Aiden Eli. Christopher William Iverson. Kaylin C. Fagan. Hope J. Estrella. Sarah Taylor Bassett. Matthew Paul O'Neill Williams. Anthony Lombardo. Did I get the name of this little guy? Bailey M. Frankel with Jace. Jenna Dawn Heiler. Alexa Isabel Massid, hooded by her father, Gregory Massid, 1996. Carmelo M. Saya. Jake Vincent Maturo. Adam David Ferrari. Stephen R. Baranowski. Jesse James Monahan. Marissa Dell Wheeler. Michael J. O'Sullivan III. Riley Danielle Shriver. Cassandra Ann Hardy. Samantha Marie Purnell. Abigail Rose Centrella. Antoine Kyle Campbell. Nathaniel Armand Joseph Honore. Delvone Anthony Davis. Kylie Ray Verrill. Brooklyn Campagna. Vanessa Grazia Champa. Gabriella Louise Izzo. Ciel Fabienne Avina. Michael Robert Churko. Vincent Thomas Demore. Jordan John Kowalski. Elizabeth Fabry, hooded by her parent, Carolyn McKenna, 1992. Jennifer Jastrzebski. Marianne L. Bowman. Kimberly Marie DeBacher. Cassie Rose DeFala. Kimberly M. Arnett. Nathan Jean Schaller. David Cummins Tyler Flato. Kayla Stiefel. Hey, how are you? Abigail Hope Mason. Madison Jean Pangburn. Julia Lynn Mack. Dominique Eliza Granada. Noram Mumtaz. Samantha Lee Graff. Gabriella Marie Pascarelli. Brandon Roy Parker. Alexander W. Sahi. Oops, I think. London Katerina Zagrofikis. Joshua Lucas Pascal. Hannah M. Snow. Krista Ann Nota Francesco. Kathleen Sarah Lima. Vincent R. Bellachico, Jr. Ashley Huber. Sarah Beth Azalone. Lauren Elizabeth Austin. Last but not least, Vicky G. Law.
Okay? Yeah. And now I ask the candidates to rise. Madam President, I have the honor and the true joy to present from the School of Law candidates for the degree of Juris Doctor.
Thank you, Dean Brown. And to the graduates, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor with all of the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Over the year, I have had the pleasure and the honor of working with our next speaker very closely. I've had conversations with him on a regular basis. He has been professional, he's been candid, he's been helpful, and he has been wise. And I am deeply grateful to the work that he and I have been able to do together and for all that he has brought to the law school in his service as SBA president. And so it is my honor to introduce your student speaker, Kyle Souza.
Good evening, everyone. Before I begin, I'd like to thank all the family and friends of all the graduates that are able to celebrate with us today. This moment means so much to us, and it just means more with you being here. Thank you. I'd like to extend a special thank you to our president, Judy Olian, to Dean Brown, Dean Kuhar, Dean Barry, George Morgan Jr., all the other professors here today, and of course, to Quimby.com. I want to talk to you all about 3 things today: adversity, assistance, and advice. First, adversity. I remember before law school, I talked to some attorneys about law school. They all warned me how hard it was going to be. And every time I just kept thinking, it can't be that hard, can it? Oh, how wrong I was. Preparing to become a lawyer in America's adversarial court system is challenging. Go figure. The reading assignments, the writing assignments, the cold calls, the competitions, and the internships. It's a lot. For those of you who are not graduating today, let me put it this way. I'm 25 years old, and in the past year I've gotten so many wrinkles that my girlfriend makes me use a special face cream. But today, we celebrate that we did it. We overcame the adversity that we faced every day for 3 years, and we each earned a Juris Doctorate degree. Next, I want to talk about assistance. In the words of President Lincoln, I'm a success today because I had a friend who believed in me and didn't have the heart to let me down. Luckily, this is a speech, so I don't have to Blue Book cite that, Alexa. And my family is the reason I'm standing here today, and I'm just so happy to have you guys. I couldn't have crossed the finish line without you, whether it was just because I was hungry or because my car broke down. You're always there for me, and I really appreciate that. I also want to thank my girlfriend, Nicole Lipkin, who's also graduating today. I remember hitting it off with her, talking about Hudson v. Kraft, the illegal prize fight case before torts class. She's my study buddy, my competition partner, and my biggest supporter. She never let me cut corners, and she never let me settle for good enough. Without her, I don't think I would have accomplished a quarter of what I did in this past 3 years. Last, I want to leave the class of 2022 with some advice, but because I'm in the exact same boat as you all, I don't know what advice to give you. Luckily, our classmate, Alexa Massad, and her father, attorney Gregory Massad, who's an alumni, shared some words of wisdom for me to pass to you. A legal education comes with respect and credibility. It opens doors for you unlike most other professions and careers. With all the privilege you will realize, they come with great responsibility. So here are a couple tips of advice. You will need to be confident at all times, but don't be arrogant. Your education will provide you with intelligence, but do not be condescending. In your positions, you will have to be staunch, but do not be obnoxious. The doors you will walk through will make you worldly, but do not be demeaning. In your arguments, you must be persuasive, but do not misrepresent. In representing your client, you must be zealous, but do not be unfair. You will have to be aggressive, but do not be pushy. At times, you will have to be argumentative, but never be insulting. Today, we celebrate that we overcame the great challenge of law school. Every day after today, we must remember the subtle differences I just mentioned and use our legal education to its fullest to reap its greatest reward. I have no doubt that our class of 2022 can do that. And on that note, I'd like to say congratulations to the Quinnipiac Law class of 2022. Thank you. And I have the great privilege of introducing our Professor of the Year. So just to give you a couple sentences of background so you understand how big of a deal this is. I am the SBA president, that's why I'm here, and I had two incredible vice presidents, Richard Bratton of full-time and Brittany Bisson of part-time. Thank you so much. And as the Student Bar Association, our duty is to be a liaison between the students and the administration. One of the many things we do is have a poll at the end of the year, and we polled our entire class and asked who are the best professors. And we take the top three and we have them as hooding professors, as we saw today. Professor Levine, Professor Thomas, and Professor Farrell were the top three this year. And specifically, you can clap. Now, specifically, the top professor of the year was Professor Jennifer Levine, and a lot of people made note that she's got some differences with some people in that group, namely because Professor Farrell and Professor Thomas all taught every full-time 1L, either civil procedure or contracts. So we all had their class if we were a full-time student, and we may have had a class with them as an elective in later years. But Professor Levine does not teach a required class. She teaches federal income tax. And every semester, I don't know how she does it, but within 4 seconds, registration opens. Her class is already filled, and Mr. Benson's inbox is flooded with angry emails because they didn't get it. And if that wasn't enough to fill an income tax class, she actually makes the class fun. I had no desire to do tax, but she got me to take a second tax course after that. The reason she is the Professor of the Year this year isn't just because of how great a professor she is in the classroom. She's also an excellent professor outside of the classroom, whether it's when I don't know what a hodgepodge or fire pot is, section 1231, and I call and you pick up, or anyone else calls and you pick up at any hour, or if it's to ask about career advice from a number of our people sitting in our graduating class right now. And you helped even with mock interviews. You do far more than your job description, and that is why it is my honor to name you Professor of the Year and hand it off to you for your speech.
Thank you, Kyle. President Olian, Dean Brown, friends, family members, faculty, and most importantly, members of the class of 2022. Words cannot express how excited I am to be speaking to you on this wonderful occasion, and how honored and touched I am to receive this award. Today, you reach a milestone. You earn your law degree. Throughout your law school career, you learned to think like a lawyer, and you built an incredible vault of knowledge. And knowledge is power. For those of you who I've had the pleasure of teaching, you may remember that my kids love superheroes. In fact, they even visited some of our Zoom classes dressed as Superman and Wonder Woman. As Uncle Ben in Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. My wish for you is that you will bring your love of the law, your intellectual curiosity, and your tenacity to this great profession. That you will challenge yourself and those around you through your passion and your commitment to justice. That you will responsibly not only uphold the rule of law, but shape and improve the law and build a better and more just world. As you start a new chapter in your life, remember that your learning has only just begun. Ask questions, seek answers, challenge those around you to be better. Learning is a lifelong journey. Stretch to expand your horizons. And finally, remember the power of relationships and community. You have probably heard the phrase, "You can do hard things." Under the best of circumstances, law school is a hard thing. Add COVID, and it is an incredibly challenging experience. You did it. You did it. And you did it by coming together as a community and supporting each other. And each of you has grown immeasurably as a result. While I'm sure none of us will forget COVID anytime soon, I hope that you will remember a truly important part of your law school journey. In a time of turmoil and uncertainty, you have demonstrated your resilience, your perseverance, your commitment, and your compassion. As you begin your careers, remember the power that comes from individuals working together to lift each other up. Continue to build relationships. Lead with kindness, empathy, and respect. In your lives, you will be challenged to do more hard things. Think back to what you have achieved here and know that you can overcome whatever obstacles stand before you when you support one another and you work together. Class of 2022, it has been a privilege to work with and learn from you over the past few years. I know that I speak on behalf of my colleagues when I say that we are very proud of you. I and Quinnipiac Law School are here tomorrow, next month, next year, and wherever your careers may take you. We wish you the best of luck in everything you do, and we're rooting for you. I hope that you find happiness, success, and fulfillment. As you embark on the next leg of your journey, please keep in touch, and please keep us posted regarding all of the amazing things that you're accomplishing. Congratulations.
Thank you, Professor Levine. And now I'm very pleased to invite to the podium a member of the alumni community, a member of the class of '91, Ed Sarasia.
Thanks, Dean Brown. I'll ask the graduates to please stand. It's my honor to be here before you as a graduate of the class of 1991. I invite you to move your tassel from the right to the left of your cap. That simple task signifies your transition from student to graduate and alumnus. And it's your continuation of your unique, your meaningful, and your lifelong journey and relationship with Quinnipiac. I'm especially pleased to have you as a Bearcat for life. Congratulations and best of luck to all of you.
Great. Thank you, Ed. All right. So we are going to conclude today's ceremony, and just a little bit of traffic direction here. Only the platform party is going to recess out of the arena. All the new graduates are able to remain in the arena with their friends and family, meet up with family and guests within the arena. And on behalf of President Olean, the faculty, and the staff of the Quinnipiac University School of Law, I again offer warm congratulations to the class of 2022.